Now what I want to try here is setting up a login using the local database. You can see currently on the lines here we have login enabled, and we're using just a basic password of Cisco. So if I want to configure a local database here, what I can go ahead and do is set up a username, and it's asking me for a username. We'll say Matt and hit the question mark to see what possibilities we have here next. Okay, I'll set the password to Cisco, and that's it basically. It can be as simple as that. If I bring up those options again, I can set the privilege level for this user to anything between 0 and 15. 15 being enable, you're going to get in, you're going to get all the commands. So I'll set privilege level of 15, and I want to set the password for, I can either put in an encrypted password next or an unencrypted. I'll specify that this is going to be followed by a clear text password. If you have an ability to encrypt your password, or if you're copying and pasting an encrypted password, all you would do is switch out this 0 with the 7, and then paste in your hidden password or encrypted password next, and it'll be able to figure out what you're putting in. So I've got a username Matt with privilege level of 15 and a clear text password that's going to be stored as Cisco. Now to configure the actual Telnet line to use this, I'm going to go back into the 0 through 4 lines here, and just like I set up the login earlier, there's more options for this. If you hit the question mark, you can see that you can either hit login and just enter carriage return, and that's going to use the default login for the password that's set for that line, which is what I had set to Cisco earlier. Or I can set it to use my local database. So I'm going to set it to use a local database just to show and confirm that I'll be able to back out of here and log in using my actual username and password. So go ahead and do login local, and back out of this and bring up another line here, Telnet. And you can see now it's actually asking for the username that I configured in that database. So put in username Matt and Cisco, and there we are. It's just that simple. Very straightforward, and there's a lot of features that can come along with this. There's AAA, so you can break this down and actually set up user accounts with certain privilege levels. And you know, you can go one step further. You can use a radius server where the switch is going to go out to a server and grab the authentication so that it's not stored on the actual switch itself. That doesn't mean if you use a radius or a TACAX server that you cannot have it set up on the switch. It's definitely possible for you to have, say, a primary server set for radius, so that the first thing it's going to check is a radius server. Well, if your radius server goes down and you don't have any other way to get into the switch, you've pretty much locked yourself out, and you're going to have to get a console cable and go in there and get in. So you can actually set it up to use the radius server as a primary, and then you could have it go to the local database as a kind of a last resort. And we'll talk about that a little later in another lab where I'll actually go through the configuration of setting up radius accounts and use those within a Cisco switch. So in this video we've covered enable password and secret, the differences between those. We've talked about logging to the Telnet lines, which is not set by default, and it can become very useful, and it can also become tedious. So you have the ability and the granularity to set, okay, I only want to see the emergency debugging messages or the logging messages by setting up logging, monitor, and setting the level that you desire. We've also looked at the exec timeout, when and why and how you should use that. And we've also looked at the message of the day banners. So along with the local database and SSH, I will be addressing these in the next lab video so we can dig a little deeper into basic and slightly more advanced Telnet security and Cisco devices. Thanks for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lab.